Cheese Production from Farm to Fork by Eric, Gavin, Gord, Rachel, Owen, Braden, and Sam.
Farm to fork, the production of cheese is a 5-step process. Starting at the farm, dairy cows are milked and the milk is stored. The next step is milk distribution. The milk is collected from farms and then taken to processing plants. The next step is cheese production, finishing with cheese distribution, and finally the cheese is transported to retail stores.
Production of cheese starts like any other dairy product on a dairy farm. The milk used in cheese comes out of the same cows as that would be used for any other dairy product on the shelf, as it all gets mixed together on the way to the processor. Cows are milked and taken care of using a variety of methods that vary farm to farm. No one farm is the same. However, after collected, the milk is always rapidly cooled down to around 3 to 4 degrees Celsius and stored in a sanitary stainless steel bulk tank on the farm awaiting collection. The milk will typically sit on farm for around 1 to 2 days before the large tanker truck has a chance to pump it out of the tank to be sold. Unique about the Canadian dairy industry is the existence of a supply managed market. This means that every producer owns a certain number of quota units. 1 unit equals 1 kilogram of butterfat, which permits the sale of only that amount. Doing this controls the supply in relation to the demand so that farmers receive a steady rate for milk that is high enough to cover the cost of production. This came into effect in the 60s and 70s and has proven to be an effective way of controlling profitability for the agriculture sector and has allowed for thousands of dairy farms to continue to operate today. The quota is very expensive, ranging from a capped value of $24,000 per unit in most provinces to a high of $44,000 in British Columbia, and is mostly distributed in Ontario and Quebec.
Canadian milk is supply managed. It is produced mostly for domestic use. It has very high tariffs for importers, but a large trade deficit exists, since if any extra is needed to fill demand, it is imported. The price received for milk at the farm gate is determined at the beginning of the month by a central bureau who takes into account the price of feed and consumer demand in order to lay out the optimal price and production amount. The production has remained relatively constant since the inception of supply management, but in recent years the consumer preference has shifted away from fluid milk and dairy products in general. The farm size varies from province to province, and does cow breed and husbandry techniques, with the most milk coming from Holstein cows kept in tie stall barns.
After the milk is produced at the farm, it is transported to processing plants for further refining. The milk is transported via transport trucks and is picked up typically every 2 days. There are many different companies which transport the milk from farm to plant, most of which are producer-owned cooperative companies. The Dairy Federation of Ontario directs the independent transport companies from the farms to the processing plants. The DFO also ensures all of the milk is tested and certified by the transport companies before it is pumped into the truck. One truck is able to stop at multiple farms before it is full and delivered to the processing plants. This stage of production distributes the milk and ensures that the milk is of high quality and high standards.
Fluid milk is a term used in the dairy industry for milk that is being processed for consumption. Fluid milk is the milk as it comes out of the cow. It's usually 87% water, 13% fat. This is the milk that farmers sell to dairy farmers of Ontario, who then sell the milk to producers. The price of fluid milk is generally increasing since 2005. In 2015, the price was at 96 cents per litre, where in 2005 it was at approximately 73 cents per litre. Since milk prices in Canada are set through supply management, when the cost goes up, the price of fluid milk will also go up. The price of fluid milk has increased since 2005, since feed and other costs are also increasing.
Once the milk has reached the production facility, it is placed into large vats for mixing. Starter cultures, also known as good bacteria, are mixed into the cheese vats for flavor and texture, along with an enzyme called rennet, which helps to curdle the milk. The mixture within the vats is separated by cheesemakers into whey, the liquid portion, and curds, the solidified portion. These curds are then moved along into a cooker and stretcher to be formed into proper cheese blocks. The blocks then sit in what is known as a brine, a highly salted liquid, in order to further mature the bacteria within the cheese. All of this helps to make the well-known cheese flavors and textures that are loved amongst stores everywhere. Once the cheese is matured to perfection, it is packaged and shipped to retail locations, where it is then available for purchase by consumers. The cheese is packaged with a wax layer that coats the cheese. This layer protects the cheese from contamination, mold, insects, light, and water loss. Cheese is packaged either in large blocks designed to fill a conventionally sized pallet, or in rolls. The transportation can be difficult as the cheese is sensitive to pressure and impacts. Furthermore, it is required that the cheese does not exceed high temperatures, so any transportation vehicle moving cheese must be well ventilated and refrigerated. In addition, any vehicle or storage area must have a dry environment.
In Canada, the average retail price of cheese has been steadily increasing over the last 10 years. Although not all cheese is the same price, far from it. The most expensive cheeses are ones that have been aged. The older, the more expensive. Cheese is aged to develop its flavor, texture, and color. Over time, cheese gradually loses its moisture, which is why old cheese is typically harder than fresh cheese. While cheese is primarily sold in grocery stores, it is also sold in local cheese factories where it is made. While the prices at these local locations are often higher than the cheese at the grocery stores, consumers appreciate the freshness that these factories offer. Average cheese consumption in Canada has also increased over the last 10 years. The most popular type of cheese is cheddar, and although cheddar consumption has been increasing over time, the demand for specialty cheeses such as mozzarella, brie, and Gouda has been increasing far more rapidly than the demand for cheddar. Another trend in cheese is the increased interest in artisanal cheeses. These are cheeses that are produced by hand using traditional methods by skilled cheese makers.
The production of cheese is a complicated process that requires many steps along the production chain. Many industries and workers are involved to get cheese to the homes of consumers across Canada. The cheese industry contributes to the Canadian economy through several industries and employs thousands of workers each year, making it a key component to Canada's economic status.